other team be willing to commit to a Phoenix Maya?
Yes, the answer is, all iterations of the questions you've asked, I will answer you. I think LFM wins their draft every time out of this trade. I feel like no tomorrow, if you see a Hanzo and a Phoenix picked up here, I just go, where are you going to make up for this race other than all-in diving? And that's going to be paired with a Garrosh, or not a Garrosh, excuse me, a Genji, and then what? And there are enough tools to be able to deter that against the siege capabilities. Can you think of that race, J-How? Can you think of that poke damage?
There is no world where Hanzo isn't picked up here. There's absolutely no world.
You say that.
And if that happens,
please say
I expect a tweet from Crowan.
Oh.
For all the reasons. It'll probably take him like one tweet. Like, I don't even know if you're like, why would you pick Hanzo on Battlefield of Eternity? Your answer should just be Hanzo.
Hanzo.
Like, there's no other description needed.
I'll be honest, there's nothing I hate losing with more in Hero League than Hanzo on BOE. Because I feel like I can win the game by myself. Like, if I lose this game, that's on me.
I do wonder, though, kind of what we saw. We've seen it a couple of times now. Heroes Hearth did it. Simplicity almost got away with it. There's the Phoenix. Of a double support Hanzo on this battleground. If you're afraid that, you know, something's going to happen, you've got the Maiev there, you got Phoenix, you're afraid you're going to lose, but you can win out with a poke Hanzo as long as you keep everybody alive. Something to consider. I'm not necessarily advocating for it, but...
I mean, it's held its own. You're right. It's shown here in North America, and it's done well, is probably the best way to put it. I don't want to say it's done great, but out of all the double supports, this is the time, the place, and the situation to kind of bring it out.
Now that we're looking at this, Stukov, obviously you've already picked up Malfear, and it's highly unlikely you'll go Stukov. No tomorrow, playing into that Maiev, pull into a Blaze charge, into a Lurking Arm. That is a terrifying front line. And you talk about Phoenix getting extra damage against slow targets. Yeah, the Stukov ban, I love that ban here.
Well, frontline. I guess frontline bans actually don't work that well for No Tomorrow, just because they've already banned out the Garrosh on the one side, and if you wanted to look for the choke, it's going to be a setback.
Do you remember that number I hit you with on Tyrael on Battlefield of Eternity? It was somewhere around, I think it was somewhere around like the 60 to 65% win rate range, which is by far his best. It might have actually been a little bit higher.
Yeah.
But Tyrael on this battleground does really well. Vicky's most played hero, Tyrael. I think this is one of those places you go up against the Maiev. You can Eldruin's out. You have that protection. But I think because Blaze is on the other side, I need some type of frontline protection. One hero that worked against LFM was an Arthas when they went the Artana style. I'm not necessarily saying Arthas, but I feel you need some type of similar frontline control if you go into the Tyrael.
No, I agree. I think it's going to be necessary from No Tomorrow as well, or from them as well.
Like, if you're not going double support, I feel double warrior pretty much has to be here. And if not Dahaka, double warrior either.
What if they... Just trying to figure out if we don't see either one of those, even though I do agree with you. Like, is there any element where this gets a little bit hairy purely on T is what I'm wondering. But because we got the Hanzo, I feel like that can't be the case, because now we know we got T as an option within the Hanzo if needed.
They could go a Greymane to put... They go Sonya, not the frontline control that I thought. It gives them a lot of control in terms of Shrine, or excuse me, Punisher, Shrine, whatever. It's a Immortal clear. Obviously, Hanzo does really well there. But again, I think if you're going that, your CC is pretty much lacking. Now, if I'm on the side of No Tomorrow, if I feel, that, and again, the Maiev, I take it back, they can't at this point. I was going to say a Tracer would work really well against this, but all that damage in the front line already picked up.
You could be looking for that for LFM. Tracer last pick wouldn't be terrible. It's not necessarily the go-to playstyle that we see from them, but I'm just saying, you know, it is one of those kind of, with the Tyrael Malfurion picked up, Hanzo, it's a lot of poke, a lot of kind of, you know, prodding. But it helps when it comes to that race as well. Diablo Rhaegar. Now Tracer is looking like a no-no with that Diablo picked up by No Tomorrow.
I mean, if you put Draded back onto that Hanzo, you could easily go Li Ming into this composition, and I think you'd feel pretty much okay with it.
Into the on the side of LFM, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just... I'm okay with it when I look at the map. I'm not okay with them when I look at my opponents. Diablo, Maiev, Blaze, all pretty like tanky, able to keep themselves alive. It's still yet to be determined, but right now, as it currently stands, Phoenix is hard to kill from what we've seen. He is not the easiest glass cannon even though he is sitting at that low HP, high shielding. And it just kind of goes, where are you going to find that reset, LFM?
If we're going down that route, I mean, you could always go Greymane. If T is going to play Hanzo, you could put Draded back on a Greymane. Obviously, Greymane's fallen off quite a bit with some of the other assassins that have kind of rose to priority, especially with Phoenix being up there. So, again, they go the Li Ming route. They go with what they know and put Draded back over onto that Hanzo, which has been a very successful hero for him. And then T, a familiar Li Ming pickup. Again, Battleground, not the worst. Against the enemy opponent, maybe not the best. We do have the potential that if Maev comes in, you just kind of teleport away if you're Li Ming to make sure you don't get tethered, things like that. But in terms of race, the Hanzo Li Ming is pretty terrifying.
It's just whether or not, for me, it all comes down, no Tomorrow, when they hit their initiations, starting the first Immortal, do they, number one, initiate with multiple CCs at the same time? If they have a Maev Diablo together, probably somebody going to be dying on the side of LFM. And if that happens, I feel like this comp is terrifying. And no Tomorrow, they can bring a lot of skirmishing, they can bring a lot of fight, and they can get a lot of kills around the Immortal to where they kind of look at the Hanzo race and go, we don't really care, you're dead, right? And then stall that out until you get to even footing in the late game, and then you find yourself, you know, able to make that happen. But if you don't succeed in any of those areas, the Hanzo race, the lack of wave clear compared to your opponents, and more importantly, the insane amount of race and poke that you have between that Li Ming and that Hanzo, I just, with how much momentum we have weighing on the side of LFM, I'm suddenly going, though I normally don't feel like I say this too often, I feel like I'm on their side.
Seems good right now. Again, the frontline protection, I couldn't agree with you more on the Diablo, Maev. You get caught in that mess, you might be Tyrael, you better hope that Eldruins is already out before you get blown up, right? Yeah. Because the likelihood of making it out of there, I mean, obviously you'll have Nature's Cure from Malfurion to maybe save against one of those stuns, but a Blaze kind of added on top of that. It is a terrifying prospect to be a Sonya against this composition.
But it was volunteered into on the draft for LFM. Swabs by no means was pressured in the draft onto that side lane. It's not a hero that we typically look at and go, oh, the race capabilities. I mean, Sonya's pretty good for the offlaners in the fact that she has some of the higher damage output, but by no means is she a racing hero.
The protection is going to be here. Sonya going into the block, which will help against Phoenix auto attacks, although depending on which auto attack could come out much quicker than the other.
Full tether build so far here from Maev. Not going with those splashing autos.
They're sending Hanzo, so we have a 2-3 split here for LFM, which I don't know how I feel about Hanzo being the one in the top lane.
I completely agree with you because Li Ming is not going to be able to get the clear within the 3-2 the way that they want.
Yeah.
But I think the 3-2 split is a legendary call from LFM. Just mainly because I don't think the Li Ming is going to get the clear fast enough and that they might need the Hanzo and that the siege potential of the Li Ming off on the side, constantly throwing orbs. She has better... Hanzo has better siege in this type of situation, defense against the siege, excuse me, and then Li Ming has better siege up in the top lane because she doesn't need the minions to get to that poke prod. So I agree with you, but I will say huge respects to LFM to run this 3-2 split here. Not something I thought that we would see kind of identified from them, but Maev made the rotation up, and we'll see if it gets a cost, or it comes at a cost at all.
They're rotating up. I think that Draded and team are going to have to be very, very aware.
Color me impressed, Jay. How?
They got some work done.
They did, and man, it's just that this is now the second or third time that we've seen a small move from LFM where it goes, you know, they're growing as a squad, and I feel like anytime we get that to where you can immediately look at it and be like, this is something you guys have never done, something we haven't really kind of seen from you, and it gains a success even against a team like No Tomorrow here. It's always fun to see that kind of growth and development of HGC. Either way, though, invade attempt over this now from LFM. Two-man jet propulsion.
Ooh, the feign there by Casanova. See if he blinks out. Not going to go, but now they respect the rotation potentially coming up. Li Ming, though.
It's a party in the top lane.
Yeah, Li Ming is showing bottom, and now this is everybody up top. Swabs, he's going to get caught out. Draded almost gets the takedown on the backside.
Yeah, that was an insane Stormbow use there from Draded. I thought for sure he'd be able to get the damage, but not quite there. Jin scouting, hey, can I maybe get this invade here? As they know Swabs is going to be down. Roots zoning out, but without the objective being picked up, that's going to be a little bit too early. And No Tomorrow say thank you. for the free Khazra.
The amount of time that LFM committed to that, I was a bit surprised on, especially after Swabs went down. Recognizing the rotation up, I feel like that had to be a retreat, and if you wanted to re-engage, but the risk there versus the reward, very, very low on the reward side. But either way, we're 15 seconds out from our first Immortal spawn. Again, level 7 is kind of where Hanzo hits his peak. He does still have quite a bit of damage post level 4, but level 7 is where it really amps up. See how this first one plays out.
When it comes to the lanes, obviously a little bit of a slow rotation for LFM, considering they had the Tyrael Malfurion up on top, but it's not going to be too much to set them back, especially because No Tomorrow's siege is very limited. It's more about stopping LFM than it is about sieging themselves. So then it comes down to the Shaman race. The Shaman race, Sonya versus Blaze versus the 4-man collapse on the bottom half. Should be pretty even for both teams. I feel like if anybody pulled ahead, it's going to be LFM just because of the laning mismatch of the 1 versus 1 and hard to clear for the Blaze rather than the 4 versus 4 and the damage they got because of the 3-2 split before. But to be honest with you, he didn't make it look hard at all.
Blaze is pretty decent.
He's pretty good at wave clearing.
See Casanova already getting a little bit of a start on the Immortal here, but he is the playmaker there on the Maiev, and Aware is very far forward. They have found themselves a Malfurion. See if they can confirm the kill. Toms are going in, trying to get that, but the Aware somehow survives, Drift.
That Moonfire value, as all the members of No Tomorrow clumped up, gave him enough to get the heal and survive. LFM pushed back No Tomorrow after that initiation and still continue the race here, as it is falling now towards that 50% threshold. Casanova waiting on the side, questioning if he wants to throw out the shadow.
The poke potential on the side of LFM between that Li Ming and Hanzo is ridiculous. We'll see if they can try. I mean, those moments right there, other situations, you might be able to soak up some of those shots to kind of thwart the action, but that is impossible against this amount of poke. So LFM now on the friendly side. No Tomorrow, they're taking up a defensive stance. And, you know, this first Immortal at this phase, given the amount of shielding that LFM could potentially obtain, is pretty substantial.
LFM still poking and brought in. Hanzo still not at that 7 threshold quite yet, as Phoenix is sitting back doing work as best he can with that repeater cannon.
There we go. There's going to be the tether. There's going to be the charge. But Figgy, he's turning right around, and Jin taking so much damage on Battlefield of Eternity. One of the problems with Diablo Dreadnought is obtaining souls. He's only at 48 souls, so he's nowhere near as tanky. And you can see the race here for LFM shredding that Immortal.
First Immortal now at 50% HP for LFM. Going to be sieging to bottom. Let's see what they do decision-making wise. If they go for the double split or commit with it, they're going to commit with it. This is honestly what I would suggest, I would say is a very good call for LFM. And purely based on the fact that we see No Tomorrow has 0 defense other than, I mean, let's be real here, it's Phoenix. So with that, they can get all these initiations as you see them get right there. No Tomorrow has to dive in to get any damage on this Immortal. I have a Li Ming, a Tyrael, a Malfurion, all sitting together with that Hanzo in the bottom lane. My siege poking and prodding is phenomenal. So I'm going to make it to where it's very difficult for you to move up. And if you do, honestly, most of the time, just force that initiation. Whereas normally at a 50% shield, you would say swapping might be the safer call. LFM abusing what their composition has over that of No Tomorrow.
If they're able to take down this fort, they had to abandon the top lane sheerly out of defense as Jin eating a lot of damage, forced to back up. Now we're talking about double lanes in this, where No Tomorrow had no presence in that top lane, and now all of a sudden they're looking to rotate up. Equinox comes over, catches a little bit of that minion wave, but they've given up a lot. With this Tyrael, they're going to dive, take the rest of this wall.
But LFM might be getting a little bit too confident. They did not take out the keep front wall on bottom, which is normally what you would do in this type of call. That gives you the 10 spike right at this time frame. They're going to remain at the top half, assuming they're going to achieve the 10s while forcing the 10 or forcing the 4 immediately after. If they do that, No Tomorrow has all the time in the world to respond. So much so, look at No Tomorrow just making the rotation up, saying, wait a minute, you guys think you can make this play right now? Here's my Maiev double tether. Equinox maybe in a bad position for now. He's going to pop the passive, falling pretty low, but look at LFM moving up, end up getting the first kill and reset there. 4T, find the second one. As you see, massive damage coming out from Draded with that scattering arrow. Jay Shrite shielding doesn't last long, and the health bar even less so. Great play as they get 3 for 0 in terms of kills for LFM.
Equinox's positioning got so far forward that the minute that one reset came in, the momentum heavily picked up on the side of LFM. Now what was a little bit of a risky play ends up paying off, and Dreadnought, they've got full minion wave. They've got 10-tier advantage. They've got the Impalers behind them. This is free fort. Now they have the opportunity with the Hanzo and the Li Ming. They could potentially just siege up on that keep wall.
Yeah, we just talked about how little siege No Tomorrow has within their draft whatsoever, and LFM has a great amount of siege potential. They're going to make the rotation now. Oh, wait a minute. Nice vault from Casanova, falling very, very low. Flip over. Wave of force.
Is that enough?
Not enough damage there as he gets the tap in. LFM end up holding up. But what you see them doing is making that rotation in the Shaman camp. And I was just going to say, I really don't want to see that. Take out keep front walls. That's worth it. Denying your opponent siege, that happens 3 minutes in advance. That's not what I want, LFM. They're on the same footing in 3 minutes. I want you to body while you have the advantage here. And this is, I mean, let's be also honest here. The LFM struggling within the ladder of North America. There's not many games we see them with this type of lead in this type of situation. But they back out, instead going to worry about this Immortal. And we'll see what they can make happen with it here, as it's pretty much a free halftime.
This is insane, the amount of damage between the Li Ming and the Hanzo. Just instantly take it down. That is about 11.4K damage that just got ripped apart, and they feel so confident in it that they're actually going to come over for the Shaman camp because they see so many members of No Tomorrow. They desperately need level 10. They desperately need to clear the camps, and now that opens up a small opportunity for them to get some damage in. But for No Tomorrow, Dreadnought, things are getting dire because now they're looking to potentially take a fight at level 10, if not behind the Immortal after this kicks off.
Yeah, and it looks like they're going to try and maybe get that all in, but nobody on the side of LFM is willing to commit to the Immortal. 288 damage remains. Equinox, 3-man jet propulsion, going to be thrown down. Hits with the oil and the fire, using his level 1. But who will be the bold ranger? Somehow I have a feeling it's going to be Hanzo, but you know, No Tomorrow, they're going to keep sticking around this thing and
Jin's
trying to zone.
Jin's in the bush. There goes the engage.
One Eldruin's all as it takes.
Here comes the APOC there. It's going to go. Casanova receives the Ancestral, but the Roots in return. It forces out the Nature's Cure onto Diablo. He's running for his life. Shrita, however, returning damage, but it's not enough. The big Dragon Zero and traded. Trumming in, trying to make the plays. Equinox, he's surviving, and now all of a sudden, Li Ming has gone down.
Casanova is doing so much work with his Fan of Knives. That's like the third 3-man that I feel like he's hit in a row, but there goes Swaps with that Whirlwind after 3 members already going to be dropping. Jay Shrite trying to kite out, using that shield and getting the heal from Thompson. Eldruin thrown down, warp out. He will survive, but this is going to be one beefy Immortal.
No Tomorrow with APOC down. You kind of wondered, all right, do we have the opportunity to come through, try and get that big flank behind the Immortal? But at this point, because that fort is already down, because you're so far behind, we do see Containment Disc was picked up. That's going to be used to try and thwart the Sanctification from Tyrael to make sure that you do not allow that protection. We'll see how that comes into play here. This is a tough spot right now. No Tomorrow feels like a keep might be a given, but the position of Diablo there at the top just sniffed out by the Aware with that Moonfire.
Yeah, and if they get the 13s, they'll look to try and bait this fight. Casanova is desperate here. He's trying to force onto the backline. LFM just needs to stick together, and they know they're going to be fine. Nice root forcing out the vault. No track down quite yet. Is 13 yet to be achieved, but that turret will put them over the edge here. LFM continue their siege.
The Immortal shielding at about 50%. They keep an eye on the Diablo up at the top. Casanova again looking for an opportunity. There's going to be a multi-person tether. They go in. Sanctification has gone down, though. The bunker in return on the side of No Tomorrow. Got to keep a few people alive, but there's going to be a Dragon Arrow as an instant follow-up. Containment Disc was used on the front line. They're looking for more.
Equinox trying to get the kite out after that APOC combo goes on to Aware. Swaps falling low, but the heals and the Whirlwind will keep him up. Now Jin has to use that Shadow Charge just to try and survive. Overpower over, but there's reset. 1, 2, 3, 4. Given over to LFM, and with that, the Immortals still surviving in a 3-level lead. LFM Esports will, in fact, be able to take this series 3-1 over No Tomorrow, and more importantly, get themselves their second win at HGC North America.
It's been a long time coming for this team. Not since week 2 have they been able to pick up a victory, and that was over Galeforce. And now here we go. All the way in April, they have shown the signs of life, signs of progress that we saw throughout this series. It was against No Tomorrow, but when, again, you do that against anybody, show that type of discipline, that type of control over certain battlegrounds, it doesn't matter if you're going up against No Tomorrow or Tempo Storm. When you can pull things like that off against a team, it obviously shows clear signs of progress. Things worked out really well in this game. T there, I think 7 kills. got a little bit of value out of that Li Ming that game.
Yeah, he definitely did get the value out of the Li Ming, but it's also one of the few battlegrounds, you know, that cater to this playstyle still. That when we oftentimes talk about T, it's not even so much as it is a play level. It just goes, man, the dude's hero pool's outdated, right? Like, it's not even outdated. It's just small, and it's one hero relevant on half the battlegrounds. The other one pretty decent in most of them. And it's like beyond that point, you know, it starts getting to those T3s, and that's when it gets a little bit more awkward. But when you put them on BOE with the Li Ming, I mean, LFM, they looked great in that last game. They looked great, honestly, every game but game one.
They did. For what it's worth, he did get that one Hanzo game in, so maybe we'll see some evolution down the road. Again, with Phoenix kind of entering the Nexus, things kind of get swapped up a little bit. But, you know, I just want to compliment, there's so many things that happened today in terms of communication, in terms of drafting and things like that for LFM playstyle. But Swabs, it's been a long time since I've been able to call his name consistently. The way he stepped up in this series, it really stood out to me a lot. Whether it was the Blaze on Sky Temple, you know, the Sonya in that game in particular, there was a lot I think that he did right. And I'm really impressed with what LFM accomplished today.
I think if I was to kind of give anybody that kind of, you know, dread MVP on the side of LFM, I feel like it's Figgy. Week number 1 and 2 of part 2, I came out and I was like, I'm impressed, LFM. I feel like you have a hidden gem in Figgy. Every week past that point, struggling when it came to performance up in the front line. Then we gave him, you know, the Diablo in a couple of the games. You saw the threat he provided on Infernal Shrines, the offensiveness that he had with a couple of those games. But then we saw those moments of high instinct, cutthroat mentality, all in aggression, but then also could play the slow game, could play the more safe game. And that is something that a lot of Warriors, you know, mentality-wise, it's that switch is one way or the other. You're either all in or all out. And we got a little bit of both from Figgy, and both seemed, you know, a bit more controlled than we normally get.
I think the main thing to take away is obviously LFM's coordination. It paid off a lot today. You know, the other thing that we have to acknowledge, it was something you mentioned earlier. This now confirms no tomorrow for the Crucible. So it's something that to consider when you look at the teams coming out of the Open Division playoffs. The winner of the Open Division playoffs gets to choose their team in terms of who they wanted to play. So now, you know, there's a lot to consider. You need to show yourself. You need to give yourself the best possible option. You have another 2 games, another 2 series if you're no tomorrow. So you have time to improve, but that's only a few weeks away before we get to that. So, you know, there's a lot of things to consider on the side of no tomorrow. Again, their only victories since coming back from the Clash. It's 3 wins on Towers of Doom, nothing else. So I think they need to start to find a few other drafts. Again, they're still working in Jin, who's got familiarity from the Open Division with some players there, but no tomorrow, they've got some work to do before they get there.
Yeah, it's definitely struggling times for no tomorrow from beginning to end, really, you know, looking at part number 2, excuse me, from them as a group, but they're also, at least a majority of them, you know, kind of sit in positions and rosters where we've kind of seen that from them, but then they have those highs within small glimpses to where I feel like it's, again, kind of this just waiting till they figure out what is that inner, you know, whether it be turmoil, whether it be just whatever the conflict is, communication, something alike. And once you see it switch, you're like, wait a minute, this is what we've been waiting for all along. It's exciting for whenever we get that from no tomorrow. But we're still on the LFM hype train here today, as again, this is the 2nd win that they have been able to achieve at the HGC, so much so that I feel like I have more responsibility as an interview questioner to come up with better questions, you know, because I feel like this is one of the few times we may be able to hear from some of these members, which in fact, we have Draded on the line here for our winner's interview. Draded, I have got to ask, man, how does it feel to be able to get this win, 2nd win of the HGC?
You know, it feels great, especially, you know, even though we're in the Crucible, we still haven't stopped, you know, putting in the effort, putting in the hard work, and it feels really good to see the results.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like from beginning to end, you guys ended up playing very, very well here today. Out of maybe the Towers of Doom game, which I want to bring it back to that maybe. Can you talk about why you feel like that first game was so kind of in favor of no tomorrow, whereas like a majority of the other games, you guys were really kind of bringing the fight and holding your own, keeping it competitive?
I think a lot of that game had to come down to draft, actually. I felt it really pressured a lot of the game because they had the Tracer Genji composition, and so our backline always felt pressured. And I don't know, we just couldn't secure kills on their front line. So I think I don't know, maybe Phoenix isn't as overpowered as I might think he is right now. I'm not sure.
On a scale of 1 to 10 before this series then, how busted do you think Phoenix was?
Like 9. Now he's like an 8 maybe.
What was Zool / Li Ming on initial release on that same spectrum?
Li Ming was a 10.
Okay, so SF Johan is that one notch over. Okay,
Yeah,
I
that
just
was the most broken thing ever.
I just wanted to put that in perspective so everybody at home knows the Dreaded Busted scale. But again,
Yeah.
the success that you guys kind of had here today, and you talked about it, knowing that you're going to be going to the Crucible, is that a lot of the perspective that you guys have? Is just bettering yourself, and do you feel like this win gives you guys that confidence to feel that much better going forward?
I think it gives us a lot of confidence. I mean, obviously, we haven't taken a series since Gale Force last split. We knew that No Tomorrow would probably be one of our easier set victories. So, we're just really happy. We're feeling pretty confident around it. Even in scrims versus the higher level teams, we're still putting up really good fights. So, it feels really good.
The growth, I think, was very, very apparent with a lot of the play that you guys had today. And congratulations once again. I'm going to send you over to JL.
Thank you.
Dreaded, first off, congratulations. We don't get to talk to you guys often, of course, so I kind of want to get your thoughts because one of the key words that I picked up from Dread was competitive. And the way that we've seen you guys in series, it's not like you just get 0-3'd. You are competitive against some of the best teams here in North America. And you said that maybe No Tomorrow might have been your easier path to pick up a second victory. What is it going to take, though, in the final week and going into the Crucible to kind of keep that competitiveness up and then start to pull off some of these victories as you move forward?
I think it just comes down to draft analysis. I think with the new heroes coming in like Phoenix, it's really big that you understand the draft, understand draft priority, what heroes you want to prioritize. I think a lot of it right now comes down to draft, but also just keep grinding out hero league mechanics, all the good stuff.
Well, you mentioned draft. Today was our first time in a long time that we've seen T over on that Hanzo. It's been primarily you. Is that more of a change that kind of allows a little bit more flexibility? Because, we see a lot of Li Ming. We see a lot of Taikas from that of T. Him moving over to that Hanzo obviously allowed you to do some different things. Is that kind of something that you guys focus on, keep in the back of your mind when you look at drafts?
Yeah, definitely. T's been practicing Hanzo for a while now because we wanted to flex in the other position, so it would allow me some freedom to play some of these other more flexible heroes. And I think it just shows well. I think he played the Hanzo really well. It is always in the back of our mind is hero pool, so it's just something we got to keep improving on.
Looking at the Crucible, have you been able to keep up with the Open Division? Obviously, last year, there were several members from your team that were able to make your way in through the Pro Division. Do you keep an eye on the Open Division? And if so, what do you see when you look at some of those teams that you could potentially be facing?
Yeah, I've actually watched every single Open Division Cup. I've watched it all throughout the year. It was a big surprise coming into Open Division playoffs with some of the roster switches up because of Jin leaving XD, and then Prismat ended up leaving his Open Division team. And I think overall, the competition of the Open Division lowered a little bit as the season progressed. But I still think that the Open teams, what they do best is just team fighting. So they you just got to watch out for their hard engages and just burst one shots. I mean, Kevin God.
Kevin God. So going up against that, obviously we don't know your opponent just yet, but is there any team you got a word for some of those teams that you might be facing? If you're like, hey, do you really want to pick us? Do you got any words you want to throw out there?
I don't think you want to pick us personally, but I don't know. I don't think you want to pick No Tomorrow either, so it'll be a tough choice.
So just pick neither.
Yeah, just pick neither. Just forfeit. Just forfeit right now.
Wow. Okay. Well, Dreaded, congratulations, man. It's good to see you on here again. We had a discussion earlier this week. I'm glad to see some success for you guys. Great play today, and congratulations.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
And Dreaded here, before we kind of let you go and give you your shout-outs, I got to ask about the next matchup that we have you up against Team 12 on Sunday. Again, maybe not as successful when it comes to results, or impactful when it comes to results on your guys' end, but what are the confidence levels, thoughts, and maybe what are you guys working on specifically maybe in that series to, again, continue that growth towards the Crucible?
I think draft is still the #1 thing we have to worry about against Team 12. I think the draft against them is going to look a lot different than it will against No Tomorrow, some priorities on different heroes. So we just have to know what we want when we go in the series.
All right. Well, looking forward to it, man. And again, the floor is yours for any shout-outs.
Shout outs to all our fans. We haven't put on the best season ever, but, we're looking towards that next season, towards that next phase. We're going to step it up. So thanks to our friends, family, Hero Physio, our coach, great guy. And shouts to you, shouts to Twitch Chat.
Thank you very much. And again, congratulations there, Draded. Jao, when you started today, did you expect this to be the results? Because I will tell you, I had a lot of expectations for today. And I can't even tell you I set the bar overly high, to be honest with you. I mean, completely blind. I didn't. And today, I somehow surpassed on all fronts, like in a very different way. I did not expect LFM to be a 3, kind of one confident team against No Tomorrow. And I surely did not expect the 3-0 on the side of Simplicity. This has been the underdog dream story on the back end of North America at part 2.
I think the way that you're framing it is the best. LFM, 3-1. And you look at that and you're like, okay, that could have happened. But the manner in which they won their 3 games was pretty dominant for the most part. Obviously there was a lot of control, a few minor hiccups, but definitely a lot of progress. But again, the Simplicity over Gale Force thing, again, the implications of that No Tomorrow series with them dropping has solidified Simplicity into the playoffs. And that's kind of a bigger thing. They came out 3-0. They had a potential matchup because Simplicity plays against No Tomorrow still this weekend. And so when you look at that, you're like, all right, that could have been, the matchup where it kind of decides like who's going to the Crucible. You, me?
I did the interview and I single-handedly can tell you I have Calf word for word saying this is the Crucible matchup we have to win. Like it straight up is that matchup. And it was supposed to be. Again, I was like assuming all the average results looking at the end of the season, this is it. This is the breaking point. And then today, nah, throw all the paperwork out.
But Simplicity's drafting and play today, it's something that it's kind of like when you look at Gale Force, you're like, can you put it together for a full series? Can you repeat this type of success that we've seen you have? We know you can accomplish. They did it in 3 games. And that, to me, not 2 and then drop 1 and then finish it in a 4th.
Yeah.
Not 3-2, but come out 3-0'd in the fashion that they did. That was a big statement today.
It was a big statement. It's going to be interesting to see what happens for Simplicity moving forward. But we're going to take a look at tomorrow's schedule. And, well, I can let you know what Simplicity is going to be doing. They will be playing No Tomorrow, as I said. But first, in Europe, we have Zealots taking on Team Liquid. Then we're going to have Diamond Skin playing up against Method. And the end of the day, it is the top of NA, Heroes Hearth, taking on Tempo Storm. Man, that is hype.
Look, whatever your plans were Saturday night, I need you to cancel them. I need you to stay home. That tomorrow, Heroes Hearth is on one of the best streaks that we've had in North America.
The best streak, I think.
The best streak.
Hands down.
Tempo Storm, we kind of wondered a few weeks ago against Team 12. They're like, that was a fluke. They came back dominant in their next performance. And the thing is, if Heroes Hearth wins this series, there's still that plus-minus in terms of win-losses. They would tie.
Yeah.
Heroes Hearth would need a little bit of help because Tempo plays Gale Force in the final week. If Gale Force finishes that, gets the upset, and Heroes, I don't know, so many things can happen, but tomorrow's night matchup, regardless of results, is fire. That is the match to watch.
It is. It is very much the match to watch. And you know what? I'm excited for it. From beginning to end, no matter who ends up winning it, I feel like Heroes Hearth has claimed and earned themselves, very much a lot of respect here in North America. And then the question is the Titan of Tempo Storm going to remain on their throne here in North America? All of that and more tomorrow. And so with that, we are going to wrap up here day number 1 of Week 9. Thank you for tuning in to HGC North America. Again, we'll be back tomorrow. Another interrupt, gets his cyber agility, but there goes the drag.